I need to get myself a nice, sophisticated bookshelf. It's very dignified, Errol.
Okay, well, it's meant to go live, but I'm not sure if it's going live at the moment. So let's just kind of give it a few seconds. But be on safe side, I'm just going to record it as we. Well, it's on YouTube now, so that's good. Assuming everything is going well. Oh, good, we're live. Thanks, Sarah. There's going to be a lag about 10 or 15 seconds, but PM me. Okay, I have to mute the YouTube video. Okay, we're live, so that's all that matters. Okay, well, welcome to the first official live stream. I'm joined by two awesome people, Travis Anderson and Errol, patristic scholar Amy, who has a very awesome beard. It's Orson Pratt-like. We're just going to be checking out, like, if I can do a live stream. Apparently I can send those monetized super chats. And Sarah Allen, who's watching, has been deemed moderator because I don't have time to moderate while I'm doing this as well. So for those who are wondering where I am, I'm in the sound booth of the B.H. Roberts Foundation in the office. So before we're going to do like some memery and some nerdery, let's see if I can share my screen here, which I should be able to. Everyone can see this? Okay, awesome. Well, for those who don't know, I'm a senior research analyst and the librarian at the B.H. Roberts Foundation. You can find us at mormonor.org. Some of the most recent articles deal with Deuteronomy, Isaiah, and the Book of Mormon, Joseph Smith, the Greek Psalter, and Black Saints in the Priesthood, 1895 to 1978. One thing we have started doing recently is doing videos, very short videos. So that's going to deal with one on Bigfoot. I'll watch this. Hopefully it won't be knocked down by my boss for copyright infringement. But is Cain Bigfoot?
If you haven't,
okay, we missed this. We missed the start of that.
Have you ever heard someone at church say that Bigfoot is Cain? If you haven't, then get ready to give the coolest testimony next Fast Sunday. The way the story goes, Apostle David W. Patton was riding home after a sermon when a huge, hairy, man-like creature came out of the woods and identified himself as Cain. He said that he wandered the earth seeking to devour people. Elder Patton then rebuked him, and Cain ran off. Keep in mind, this story is secondhand and has been told and retold many times, so take it with a pillar of salt. Now, fast forward to 1967, when the most famous Bigfoot sighting is caught on film. And then, just 2 years later, Spencer W. Kimball publishes Patton's story in his book, The Miracle of Forgiveness. This transformed the obscure tale into the cornerstone of Mormon cryptozoology. So, is Bigfoot Cain? No, probably not. Is it a cool story? Absolutely. For more Mormon cryptids like the Bear Lake Monster, check out our Q&A at mormonor.org. Have you ever heard someone at church say that Bigfoot is...
Well, there you go. That's the one on Cain, and there's also one on depression as well. So, and hi to everyone in the chat, such as Carla Vegas and Josiah Flynn. And I would agree with you, Josiah. What is best in life: to crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentations of their women, as well as pillage their theology books if they have any. Okay, so this is going to be more like a chill stream than anything else. But if you want to submit any questions, I'll answer anything that's submitted as a very generous super chat at the end. Hopefully Sarah will actually moderate any stuff going on. So some of you guys shared with me some Dank General Conference memes and theology memes in general. So we're just going to kind of go through some of them. But before we do, there's a recent article that was published in the Journal of Mormon History. Can I get this up? Yes. Can you guys see the Pure Language Project article? Okay, that's good. There is a recent article published in the Journal of Mormon History, the most recent volume, volume 49, issue 4, I believe. It's by Michael McKay and David Belknap. It's the Pure Language Project. It deals with the English language documents or the grammar and alphabet of the Egyptian language, and it's an absolute game changer. in terms of the relationship or lack thereof between the Book of Abraham manuscripts and the Kirtland Egyptian papers and a host of other things as well. It's about 44 pages, but it blows Grant Heward and Gerald Tanner's thesis that Dan Vogel has tried to revitalize, and Charles Larson in 1992 followed as well. It's an absolute game changer. So definitely try to track down a copy of this. If you have an online subscription, you can get this. But I have like some excerpts on my blog if that will whet your appetite. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but it kind of blows out of the water the idea that the Kirtland Egyptian papers, or the grammar and alphabet of the Egyptian language, however you want to call them, is the source of the Book of Abraham. It's actually all part of a project that predates the Book of Abraham, the Pure Language Project, and Phelps et al. Trying to like understand and going back to like say a pure Adamic like language. It's really compelling, very good. And of course, a friend of mine, I'm not going to name names, but you probably know who it is, helped review some of it as well. So, okay, so that's the serious stuff out of the way, such as Cain as Bigfoot and Book of Abraham stuff. What we're going to do now is we're going to go through like some memes. Some will be good, some will be lame, but we can actually just discuss them as we go on. And can you gents actually see this?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I picked this one because it's brilliant. It's one of those thank you for all you do, not you. And in this case, you have a number of people such as Leonard Arrington, the Bushmans, Michael Quinn, and I'll defend Michael Quinn in a moment. But of course, the not you is Dylan and Jeremy Reynolds of the infamous CES letter. I once was asked why I have not left the church as a result of leaving the CS letter, and my response is my IQ is higher than 70. But you also have the Givens, who I will be meeting hopefully at the Fate at some conference anyway in Friday and Saturday next week. The late Hugh Nibley, B.H. Roberts, who I'm a bit of a fan of. I do work for an organization named after him, and a couple of others as well. But before anyone complains, like, Michael Quinn, he was nuts. Some of his later stuff was crazy, like the early relying on and trying to revitalize Hoffman forgeries and stuff like that. But his early stuff on post-manifestor polygamy and also the succession crisis after the death of Joseph Smith, excellent work. So he was a very good historian when he didn't have an agenda, like his same-sex dynamics book, which was atrocious. But so, yeah, I kind of begrudgingly accept he should be listed in the good category. But yeah, so by the way, like while we kind of go to this, if you want to make any comments on any of these, let me know. So, but if you want me to go on to the next one, let me know.
Sure.
Why is Reynolds? Okay, well, for those,
Why is it?
Yeah, if someone wants to keep an eye on the chat and just tell me if there's any comments, so I won't be distracted. But yeah.
Well, it just reminds me. It reminds me of that meme reminds me of a Delin. He did a TikTok clip where he went through that there was all these scholars, and he lists some scholars that supported whatever it is that he's pushing, and amongst them he listed Bushman as agreeing with his position on things, and then he also listed Runnels as a scholar. I thought that was hilarious.
Runnels is not a scholar. That's a Eugene Smith scholarship.
Like these are scholars. I'm like,
no, and Bushman believes in the historicity of the Book of Mormon. That comes out in his most recent book.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know what his deal is with Bushman, why he thinks Bushman is.
Because of that out of context clip about like how the main narrative of the church is incorrect. It's more like, say, the naive black and white Sunday school version of things. I mean, if you were to read anything like Smoot, and he had a email exchange shortly after that, which is on Smoot's blog, where Bushman kind of sets the record straight. He set the record straight many times, but of course, Dylan and his sycophants have no integrity. I mean, don't get me wrong, I disagree with Bushman on a couple of things. Overall, I like Rough Stone Rolling, but I thought some of the chapters they could have been better. Like the chapter on polygamy seemed rushed, but fortunately since then we have, like, say, the 3-volume work by Brian Hales that Don Bradley helped research, which was excellent. You shout out to Don Bradley as well. And there's been other works as well on the topic, like the 3-volume Persistence of Polygamy, Volume 1 dealing with Joseph Smith's polygamy, edited by my friend Craig Foster as well as Newell Brinhurst. So it's like, yeah, the biography overall is like very good. It's the best biography so far, although I'm looking forward to Richard Turley's biography in the next few years that he's been commissioned to write. He's a very good scholar, especially the Mountain Meadows Massacre, and hopefully it will transpose very well into the Joseph Smith era as well. Okay, so can anyone see the next meme, the Why is Mary Crying one from a Jacques Schick tract? Because your exegesis sucks. This kind of works on so many levels because to be serious, I would agree with James White. I hope God has shielded Mary from knowledge of the idolatry Rome and Eastern Orthodoxy have engaged about her. Historical myths like the Assumption, but this is also great. Why is she crying? Because your exegesis sucks. It works for so many people. And for those of you who are not in the know, this was originally part of a Jacques Schick tract, because your exegesis sucks. Although Jacques Schick would kind of give critics of Catholicism like myself a very bad name because he went with the Rome is like Babylonian Redivivus, in the Hislop thesis that Mariology is Babylonianism. It's like, dude, you're giving us a bad name, but fortunately he's dead. No one takes him seriously anyway. But okay, that's gonna go on the next one. Because we had General Conference a couple of days ago, and the Family Proclamation was mentioned, and people were complaining. I think this is brilliant. And yes, this is from Desnat. I am not a Desnat. I am not a white supremacist. But this was back when they were actually funny and not bigoted. But I think it's really good. Yeah.
Official canonization.
Yeah. Do I even need a comment on this one?
That's awesome. I've not seen that one.
Well, Errol also gets it, so that's a good sign. By the way, speaking of the Nauvoo expositor, Craig Foster, this is me being a bit serious because I want to use the memes as a bit of a serious launching off point at times. He has an excellent article that was published by Interpreter 2 or 3 Fridays ago on the destruction of the Nauvoo expositor and similar incidences 20 years before and after the destruction of the expositor. In fact, I might actually just reach out to Craig and ask if he would be willing to give a presentation on that and any research that may not have made it to the final article. But yeah, this is hilarious. I'm going to upset some people who follow me, but I think this is brilliant. Okay, Travis, I know who you know what this organization is. Errol, do you know who the Joseph Smith Foundation is? You're muted, dude.
Yeah, you're going to have to give some background because some people might misunderstand what the hair is, that it's something LGBT or something.
Okay, basically, the Joseph Smith Foundation, it's basically headed at the moment by Hannah Stoddard, who's a hardcore Yunner creationist. She believes in the Heartland model and ties that into divine revelation. She thinks Mesoamerican theorists like myself are basically godless or rejecting the prophets. They also believe that the Nephites are basically the Europeans are basically Nephites. I think that's their shtick at the moment as well. So it's I'd like to think they mean well, but it kind of gives Mormonism a bad name, and basically this is why people think we're a cult. They're scientific nonsense. But yeah, this is basically it's not making fun of Joseph Smith. It's making fun of the nation.
Everything that they believe is based in fact, right?
Yeah. Calvinist theology makes Mary cry. Don Bradley is amazing. Yeah. And how does anyone older than 25 follow Jean Delin? Low IQ. Okay. We'll move on to this one. I think I got this from a fundamentalist Mormon group, but the section of the Doctrine and Covenants every progressive Mormon and critic hates. Section 132. Yep. And Travis has to mute himself. He's giggling like a little schoolgirl at the moment.
It's true. It's one of the more It's one of the more controversial sections of the DNC. And
By the way, go on mormonor.org to see the evidence for the authenticity of Section 132. It's not a later fraud, by the way. But here's an excellent one. Could you briefly explain why you love Mormonism? This also works for theology and any other particular field. Nerds with OCD like myself would answer when asked about it. But yeah, it's just basically a wall of text. It's like, wait, oh God. But yes, Mormonism is awesome. It's the truth. And yeah, it's I could talk your ear off if you ever ask me why I love it. And fortunately, I'm blessed to be able to research it full time as well. So that's awesome.
it's always good when somebody has that many words.
I thought of Dan McClellan when I saw this one, so I had to share. And for those who are wondering about my view about the flood and stuff like that, I believe in the historical, but albeit local flood. Yeah, and for those who are wondering where I stand on now, science and religion, theistic evolution. I mean, I have friends who are younger and older creationists, so I'm not dogmatic about it, but I think theistic evolution explains the evidence way better than other models. And I have a degree in anthropology, so I have some idea of like the scientific method and some of the evidences deduced. But
yeah, more localized flood does.
Yeah, but from their
better with the
perspective, we're
evidence.
being global as I like Ben Spackman's approach. Like they would have like viewed it as global when they were scripturizing the text to deconstruct
been
and
there.
subvert the Babylonian epics as well.
Right.
But yeah, I do believe in historical Noah, as I do for historical Adam and Moses. And I don't care if that makes me unpopular in some liberal circles. Okay, next one. Someone submitted this one. Travis. By the way, I'm a fan of Brigham Young in spite of some of his teachings. I also have, you can't see it at the end, but it says Young at heart as well. So this is a joke, stream people. We're not complaining about anyone. I should be
Did
wearing
it
my
get it?
heart polygamy one.
I did not create that.
Oh, okay.
Good. No, I did, but my bishop has a sense of humor. My bishop has a sense of humor.
There's someone who's posting his Kranzag. Could someone link to the Mormon or site for DNC 132? In the chat, I just shared the URL for the homepage, but if you go on controversial issues, Joseph Smith polygamy, that should come up. But yeah. By the way, I'm won't be engaging a lot with the chat at the moment, but so I'm not ignoring anyone. Just only have one screen on.
You said dank. I was trying to figure out where dank is, whether it's like what the parameters of being a dank meme.
It's subjective, but basically, like a lot of the memes we at BHR post would fall under dank at times. So please tell me you guys get this one. By the way, chat, tell me if you get this. I know that there's a bit of a delay, so. And while I wait for the chat to respond, yes, Sarah, Craig Foster is an absolute treasure. I'm amazed that anyone is treating the tenors to anything other than derision at the moment. I agree, for the most part. Wyoming apologist, I'm not going to use your first name, although I think you wouldn't mind, but just in case, hi, dude. Yep, Dan Shapiro. And yes, bring back polygamy and beers, Josiah. But yeah, this is, because if you think about it, like this is, again, me being a bit serious here. Dan McClellan, who, as much as I disagree with him, is a very smart guy, don't get me wrong, earned PhD. He's basically the Ben Shapiro of progressive Mormonism on YouTube. He just goes after the low-hanging fruit. And by the way, if Dan or any of his sycophants ever see this, prove me wrong, have a debate on homosexuality in the Bible with either Blake Oster or Robert Gagnon. I know both of them. I can set it up. I'll host it as well. But yeah, this is right. All right, let's hear it. David does not care about your dogma. I think this is one you submitted as well. I'm not sure if you made it though. But
I
yeah,
did.
yeah.
I
For
actually
those,
don't. I actually don't know of any memes that I like. I don't find them. I either make them or somebody suggests them.
yeah, yeah. Brigham and Emma did not actually like one another. Brigham accused Emma of trying to poison Joseph on 2 occasions, called her the damnedest liar that's ever lived. Emma wasn't exactly a fan of Brigham as well. So that's B series here. And I believe that's Orson Hyde as well in the middle. It can't be Orson Pratt because he doesn't have the awesome beard that Errol is currently sporting at the moment.
It's hard.
Yeah. Okay. Before you guys comment, Shat, I know there's a bit of delay. Tell me if you get why this is funny, and maybe you could explain it. Okay, there's going to be a bit of delay. I mean, for those who are familiar with my interactions with a certain someone and his lack of patristic knowledge, hopefully someone in the chat will actually get this. As I said, there's going to be like a 10 or 15-second delay. But from the well, of course you get it, Travis, because you were there, but Errol gets it as well. You saw that exchange, right? Yeah.
We might need to post the clip in the description.
Okay, just like Kranzag asked about our take on LGBTQ in the Bible. Blake Oster was interviewed by Jacob Hansen on the Thoughtful Fate podcast on YouTube. I think Blake did a very good job at discussing homosexuality and related issues with respect to antiquity and the Bible. So I would actually suggest tracking down that. I'm not trying to dodge your question. It's just that's a complex question. If you're looking for a book, though, there's a biblical scholar, Robert Gagnon, Gagnon, The Bible and Homosexuality, Texts and Hermeneutics from 2001. It's dense, but it goes through all the texts. It deals with the liberal scholarship, including the best the other side has to offer, not the low-hanging fruit merely, and kind of goes through like all the Greek and Hebrew issues, like is Leviticus only talking about cultic prostitution, and so on and so forth. It's a really good book. Yeah, and you're also correct, Kranzag. Your debate with him where you asked for a scholar of the 3rd century. For those who are not familiar, the first guy is Charles Haddon Spurgeon, a 19th century Baptist preacher. And I had an exchange a couple months ago now with Paul Gee, which is a clip on my YouTube channel, where I asked him for people who rejected baptismal regeneration. And, well, I was asking a friend of his for people who rejected baptismal regeneration in the 1st century. He said no. Second, he said no. At least he was being honest. 3rd century, he said no. And before I said 4th century, Paul Gee said, I can, Charles Spurgeon from the 19th century. So, yeah. For those who do not familiar with Paul, and I don't think all critics of the church, even people who would fall under the anti-Mormon label, are stupid. I think there's many very intelligent critics of the church, like David Wright. I was about to say Dan Vogel, but he's good at collecting documents. That's it, really. There are smart critics of the church. Paul is the most low IQ critic of all time. And that's not me being mean. It's just like his arguments are stupid. And I think some people, even in the Trinitarian camp, would say his debate with Jacob Hansen was an embarrassment. So much so that he even used 1 John 5:7, that even Trinitarian scholars like Daniel Wallace and even an apologist for it, like James White, would admit that's a later interpolation. But he's pretty adamant it's original to the text. But yeah, that was a slaughter of a debate. Yeah. By the way, I'm not Scottish, in spite of what Carden a couple of weeks ago when I appeared on Ward Radio said that was a joke. I'm Irish, but as someone who's also a rabid Irish nationalist, I want to visit a country other than England when I'm back home to visit a temple. So there's none for my Scottish brethren. We do have a more dank one for Ireland momentarily. By the way, if there's anyone from Scotland or Ireland, one, what the heck are you doing up this late? And two, took a girl off. I believe you were the one who sent this to me, Travis. Yeah.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
thinking, Jesus, I had somebody posted this picture and then they said, and then I had just read Jesus asking that people send us the lame. And
Yeah. By the way, Carla, it's because I'm Irish. I'm pretty direct. That's why. But I'm glad you like it. And yes, the Welsh are fine. The language is crazy, but yeah, it's fine. Yeah, Paul Gee did once say Charles Spurgeon was an early church father. I mean, I think Spurgeon is like overrated because he wasn't a good theologian. He didn't add anything substantial to anything in Reformed theology. But he was a great orator. He correctly is called the Prince of Preachers. Okay. By the way, the little manlet who's actually literally 5354 is actually Paul Gee. I think he was handing out like something he printed off from his website about purported contradictions or something like that. So,
oh yeah, what was it? I would have loved a copy of it. Nobody ever produced a copy of what he was actually passing out, but it was wall to wall, back and front text. I was wondering, first of all, does he know that many words?
Yeah, first of all, for those who complain about my blog, it could be worse. I mean, see anything by Paul Gee. But I don't know. I mean, like a couple of months ago, he said he was going to hand out like his compilation of contradictions internal to the Book of Mormon and between the Book of Mormon and the Bible as well. Like Jacob 2 in section 132 of the Doctrine and Covenants, vis-a-vis plural marriage and other things. I really doubt Paul actually could give you a definition of what a contradiction is. And again, I'm not trying to like say all critics are stupid, but there's no nice way of saying this. Paul's an idiot. And there are hopefully like people in the chat will realize there's more intelligent, even internet-only critics out there than Paul Gee. But yeah, he's a pest because he just hounds people.
And then he gets emotional if you don't respond positively what he says. So
can you see the one? Can you see this one that Errol just sent me, the Apostolic Fathers one? Yay or nay? I'm going to take that as no, you can't see it. I'll share it in a sec. Because that's actually a good one. Okay, Gerald Discourses. By the way, being serious, I think I announced this last time I tried to do a live stream, but some of the speeches by Brigham Young were in Pitman shorthand, and then they were like edited and for publication in the Journal Discourses. But George Watt actually originally took them down anyway in Pitman shorthand. Huge shout out to Lejeune Carouche, who has done a lot of work over the last couple of decades, actually, transcribing the Pitman shorthand from George Watt and others of Brigham Young's sermons and speeches and journal entries by Watt and others. I don't have the COR number at the moment, but if you're going to go on the catalog of the church history website and you just type in Lejeune Carouche, it will come up. Perhaps if Sarah or someone else were to share the link to it directly in the chat channel, I think that would be a good one. It's very good because sometimes there's like minor differences between what appears in the shorthand original and the later versions in the Journal Discourses, but sometimes there's actually substantial differences. Lejeune discussed it briefly in her 30-minute talk at the Fair Conference in August, as she did in Rochester, New York in June, during the Mormon History Association meeting and other places as well. And she hopes to present on a similar topic as well at the next Fair Conference. And for those who do not know, on my spare time among a few other things, I've been actually trying to teach myself Pitman shorthand as well. So I'm near the end of going through like some of the exercise book Lejeune sent me, and I might reach out to her to help maybe decipher some shorthand originals by Watt if the occasion ever comes up. But yeah. I'm not going to read that, Josiah, but yeah, I agree. Okay. Okay, this is a great one because I think we've all heard you just need a relationship with Jesus. You don't need religion, dude. From like say a lot of hippies as well as people with piss poor ecclesiology. And for those of you who don't know what ecclesiology means, it means theology of the church. The whole it's just me and Jesus. I got this, by the way. I'm not sure if he's watching, but shout out to my Facebook friend Brick Martin, who's actually a Roman Catholic. I actually got this from his page. And for those who can't read the response from the father to it's a relationship, not a religion. False dichotomy, son. Religion simply means adherence to a set of teachings. In John 14:15, Jesus said, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. And also I would just say, kind of go through, like say, the Acts of the Apostles and the pastoral epistles. I mean, you can't deny that there's a high ecclesiology, and it's a false dichotomy. I mean, yes, Christ saves, but he saves through instrumentality, and one of the main instruments is through the church. So, yeah. And I like what Bruce McConkie said, like people who like emphasize a relationship with one of the members of the Godhead to the exclusion of the other two, they are generally going to be cultists. You know.
That is literally one of my favorite memes of all time.
It's brilliant. And for those who like comedy, the guy who played Mr. Bean, Rowan Atkinson, he appeared in one of the best comedy series of all time called Blackadder. So definitely check out that series, especially series 2, 3, and 4. I mean, 1 was kind of hit and miss. The first episode was good, and the episode where he became the Archbishop of Canterbury, that was a hilarious episode as well. But yeah, he's brilliant. Not just as Mr. Bean, but especially as Edmund Blackadder. The best series in my view was the second series, although it kind of got dark at times, but it was brilliant. But yeah, this is Calvinist Jesus. But Errol, what I'm going to do is like I'm going to let you share your screen when we finish, so you can actually share those memes as well. Okay? Because they're actually good, and maybe you could like use them as a launch pad for like papacy stuff. So. Yeah, this is so true. Yeah, I mean, I think it was Ray Maris who was like one of the leaders of the first historical quest for Jesus. It's basically scholars who try to find a historical Jesus are looking down a well and they see their reflection. And if you read any work, not all works, like N.T. Wright tends to be pretty good and so forth, but like a lot of works on the historical Jesus from the first quest to the current third quest, it's basically making Jesus into their own image, you know. So, but this is good. It also works for Dank Theological.
They use good jargon, though, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
Make it look like they're being objective.
Yeah, something tells me the historical Jesus TM would not have been okay with, say, transgender kids, but you know, who am I to judge?
Like they forget that he was in a strict Jewish context, but
yeah.
Whatever.
For those who are fans of old firms, this kind of brings out some feels. But, you know, back when Farms was actually good, you know, until they got rid unceremoniously of Dan Peterson. For those who don't remember, the Neil A. Maxwell Institute was not always bad. They actually did produce a lot of excellent work, especially on the Book of Mormon. But since they unceremoniously got rid of Dan Peterson, I mean, Sorensen published Mormon's Codex with them, and Ralph Skousen has done some of his work on Book of Mormon text critical issues through them, but it's been pretty bad recently, like in the last decade plus. But Marcus Borg, for those who don't know, is one of the I'm not sure if he's still alive, but he was one of the premier figureheads of the Jesus Seminar alongside Jean-Dominique Croissant, who's from Tipperary in spite of the very French sounding name.
There's a meme in there somewhere filtering through what's good and bad with the Maxwell Institute now.
Yeah. One from my workplace. Oh, and it's Church History Catalog CR 10912. Thanks, Sarah. And the Blackadder episodes with Brian Bessett were great. Yeah, I agree. He's the most shouty actor there is. But yeah, stop giving me your toughest battles. It's literally just going to the second hour for once. I think this is something you sent me, Travis. Anytime some teacher says the Old and New Testaments aren't enough, they are attempting to get around some truth they don't understand or like. That's the life work of Joseph Smith. And then from down here, one of the Pharisees to Christ. Anytime some teacher says the Old Testament isn't enough, they are attempting to get around some truth they don't understand or like. I mean, I know it's a meme, but there's like a lot of truth in this as well. Not all, but like a lot of criticisms raised against the church could also be raised if you're consistent against the first century Christian movement, like the church of being a cult, an unusual devotion around a human figure. The New Testament presents Jesus as God incarnate, albeit human as well. So, but yeah, Christ lived in a time of special revelation, and the inscripturation of new revelation would come after him. So, if you were a sola scriptura at the time, you would have rejected Jesus. Yeah. I don't think I need any comment on this, and I'm sure people in the chat will agree.
Yeah, I remember a couple years everybody was making those.
Yeah, this meme kind of reminds me, like, say, how loads of people use the Hebrews 1:1-2 passage as proof against like modern revelation. It's like, my dude, that would mean Hebrews is not inspired. It's just like a historical work like 1 Clement or Justin Martyr reporting on historical events and not inspired. Yeah. But yeah.
The memes almost make themselves, right?
Yeah.
That's from a discussion I had where the guy actually admitted that that's what he was doing.
Yeah, which kind of reminds me of the Ralph Wiggum of anti-Mormonism. I haven't heard anything from Fred Anson for about a year.
You can hear the click 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 of the keyboard while you're talking to them, and it's like, what are you looking up now?
Yeah, I'm a researcher.
Of the power of intellectual consistency. That one might need some background for some people.
Travis, do you want to explain who this human cum stain is?
That is Pastor James Hazelton from St. George, Utah, who I had a discussion, and that is a direct quote. And I didn't think I was being uncharitable
I watched the interaction, but yeah.
When I placed his head on Bob Ross, he was very offended by that, but Bob Ross was a magnificent human being.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like Count Dankula.
Why would you be upset with being compared
to him?
Yeah, why would you be? I mean, I was just making fun of the way Bob Ross talked in comparison to what he said, not necessarily Bob Ross, but he was pretty pissed off.
I'd be
maybe it's because he likes being bald, and he was upset because of the remembrance of hair.
So just on Fred Anson, aka the Ralph Wiggum of anti-Mormonism, the Wyoming apologist wrote, quote, Fred Anson wants to retire and pass his stuff down to Michael Flournoy. That's at least what Flournoy told me. I mean, geez. If Fred's that desperate. I mean, if Fred honestly thinks Flournoy is his successor, enough said, right?
Well, when Flournoy
you're talking about somebody who taught like alien, in the term alien imputed righteousness, refer to an extraterrestrial. When he became
Flournoy
the first time.
Flournoy was mentioned a little while ago that he was going to pass the torch for his. I can't remember now what the name of his Facebook page is, but he wanted to pass the torch to somebody, and I was trying to convince him to let Paul G have it. I would love to see that.
I think that's going to go without saying. Hashtag there's only two genders, by the way. Yep.
Poor Robert.
Well, at least I'm in Utah now, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, but you could kick a rock and hit a temple with it.
Yeah, but I would imagine Ireland would have got a temple before Outer Mongolia, but apparently I was wrong. Outer Mongolia would get a temple before God's country will. Go figure.
We need to have a discussion one day about what the feelings are about why it's not getting a temple.
Well, you bring in mission presidencies being Scotland Yard and the RUC, you're asking for trouble from at least the South, so it's not going to go well. But that's a different issue. More solo scripture bashing. Oh, yes, and shout out to Sarah, who actually made in 20 seconds the no Irish need apply one. I love that YouTube channel, but yeah, this is a great one. By the way, for those who actually want some information on Amenadai from Alma 10.2, Don Bradley, in his book, The Last 116 Pages, actually has discussion about it. So everyone should get Don Bradley's book, the last 116 pages that came out 3-4 years ago, I believe, from Greg Hoford. He actually discusses this narrative and other things we seem to be able to glean in varying degrees of confidence about the missing Book of Lehi. So, but yeah, this is great. Wait, that sounds awesome. Are you going to explain more about that? Nope, never mentioned again. Had to be have been there. Okay, that's just awesome. More out like Tribune bashing. But it's so true. I think it was about a year ago that there was a series of articles by the sports columnist guy about the depiction of Mary in various LDS artwork and stuff like that. Yeah.
When I first got introduced to the Salt Lake Tribune years and years ago, when I first started actually paying attention to stuff like that, I used to picture that the article headlines were written by a guy living in a trash can like Oscar the Grouch, and that they just tell him the idea for the article and he just rudely spits out a title. And oh, that's awesome. That's where the titles come from.
I don't think this one needs commentary. So true.
Ain't that the unfortunate truth?
Yeah, and for those who want a good Latter-day Saint discussion about prayer, Blake Oster, Volume 2 of Exploring Mormon Thought, has a chapter on petitionary prayer and Latter-day Saint theology. Now, he approaches it from an open theistic perspective, which is correct. But, it's still good even if you disagree with open theism. You're wrong. I'm guessing the guy with the shovel is from like some kind of a video game or something like that. But yeah,
Roll with a shovel.
I'm not gonna lie. I thought this was about Michael Lofton from Reason and Theology, Pope explaining. But yeah, this kind of works for like a lot of people.
I don't know. I think I'm sometimes guilty of that, but I'm usually just asking questions for clarity because people pose questions they haven't really thought through very well. They needed to have put "Let's see it," but
Oh, the
true.
Gravekeeper from Ocarina of Time. That's great. And someone said, "How do you find my picture? Is the actually meme yours, Kranzag, or you just saying that looks like you as a joke?" But yeah, like, shout out to Wyoming apologist. Yes, the Gravekeeper from Ocarina of Time, which, by the way, is the best video game of all time. Earl agrees. Excellent. For those who do not know, one, I envy you, and two, this is Rob Bowman. Um,
And if you don't know that, he'll tell you.
yes, Doctor Rob Bowman.
And if you want to know anything about him, they'll tell you. He's like the vegan of apologists.
No, he's like a vegan cyclist, transgender.
Who's into CrossFit.
Yeah, but I did one before. Well, thanks for making that, Kranzak. I didn't know that was yours, but shout out to Kranzak for making that one anyway. But yeah, have you ever noticed, like, say, how Calvinists are so totally depraved? I mean, you have James White, you have Durbin, you have Bowman, you have Hazelton. I mean, I only half joked when I said I wasn't convinced of the Reformed doctrine of total depravity until I met Calvinists. And most of them also convinced me of the truth of the Catholic doctrine of invincible ignorance as well. But yeah, that's Bowman.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. By the way, being serious, there's actually a very good research article and primary source documentation on the Mormon Or website on BYU and Beards. Being a bit serious for those who want to like delve into it, the history of it and the reasoning behind it over the last couple of decades. But yeah, this is brilliant. Although I think the best beard in Mormonism until Errol joined the church was Orson Pratt's beard.
I don't know. Joseph F. had a pretty fantastic beard.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of Ocarina, though, Ocarina of Time.
Best game ever. Oh, this is King of the Hill.
That one's great.
Yeah.
It looks like the Hamburglar, though, or a Mayor McCheese from McDonald's. Little top hat.
The response to Oak's kick-ass talk at General Conference. I can't wait for him to be president, just to see like Jim Allen and other liberals and progressive Mormons lose their crap.
Oh yeah, I will love, what is it, X now? I can't wait for X to explode.
Yeah, I'm always going to call it Twitter, but yeah, how they will respond to Oates becoming president will be like how abortionists responded to like the decision last year from the Supreme Court.
Or Trump getting elected from liberals.
And it seems like he'll be elected again this next year as well as things going. But heaven help us. Yeah. But this is what you get for not voting in Ron Paul's God dictator when you had the chance to. Yeah. More Oaks posting. By the way, for those in the chat, tell me what your favorite talk in General Conference this time was. Feel free to steal, Alan, Sarah Allen. I'm not the one who made it, but you might want to like cross out the naughty word at the URL. Joseph Smith was not a polygamous meme. Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely loved Breaking Bad, and I really liked Better Call Saul as well. I think they were two excellent TV series. And I'm someone who these days just hate watching TV and shows like that because they've ruined Star Trek, which was the best show ever. By the way, if you're in the chat, tell us what your favorite Star Trek is and explain why it's the next generation.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that there's any other options really.
DS9 was good once they got to Defiant.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. But Next Generation I was addicted to that when I was younger.
Fortunately, we had Next Generation on Irish TV and it was like 4 or 5, and it was around the Borg episodes like Best of Both Worlds when it was really good, so that got me hooked on Star Trek. And of course, like the last 10, 15 years of Star Trek has disgusted me. Another Office meme. Yeah, Kranzag, the original series was good. The original series movies were the best. There was only one good next-gen movie, and that was First Contact. But with the exception of 5, which never happened, most of the original series movies were brilliant. And my favorite is actually Star Trek 6. So
You didn't like Turn of Spock?
Oh no, that was good. It kind of gets a bad rap because it's stuck between 2, Ratakan, which most people think is the best Star Trek movie of all time, and 4, which was like Star Trek trying to do comedy, but pulling off for once, when it shouldn't have worked. Like aerosol cannon space trends the Earth and wants to talk to the humpback whales and have to travel back in time. Seems nuts, but they actually managed to pull it off. It was actually a pretty decent, good movie. But no, Search for Spock was actually a good movie. It's just like, it was unfortunate it got stuck between those 2 movies. But anything's better than the 5th movie, where it's basically Shatner goes against God and Shatner wins.
I don't think that people realize how good of actors the Star Trek actors have been from the original series. You have to be a phenomenal actor to pull off a show like that. And they were just so good.
Well, this is a good one. Of course, Boggs is in hell, so I'm not sure if he's familiar with this, but if it does, I hope it adds to his torment. This will going to go into the people memes Errol will be sharing with us momentarily. But Simon did not say, which, by the way, is the biggest cop-out from Roman Catholic apologists when it comes to any papal error. It's like, he never said, Simon says, or, kind of ignoring, this is me being serious. There's different types of papal infallibility and ecclesiastical infallibility. The Pope does not have to be speaking ex cathedra for it to be binding. And perhaps Earl will agree with me. Catholic apologists functionally put Newman on steroids, and they also ignore the indefectibility of the church, not just the infallibility. I mean, I don't think Honorius, and this is us being nerds, so if you're in the chat, you don't know what we're talking about, that's fine. But I don't think Honorius necessarily disproves papal infallibility in his letter to Sergius. But the reception of it at the ecumenical councils condemning him as a theological heretic in the 5th, 6th, and 7th ecumenical councils and the Liber Diurnus, if you go against that, you're saying that the church was clueless, and that goes against the indefectibility of the church. So, but yeah, Simon did not say. There's also a good meme. I don't have it with me, but it's basically the Simon game. It's like Simon, and like Peter's like, well, Peter did not say Simon says, so it's okay, or something like that. So, papacy humor. By the way, they found horses in Mesoamerica contemporary with the Book of Mormon recently, or at least hints of it. So Sutherton and Murphy lost their crap as a result of this. But yeah, this is hilarious if you're familiar with like issues about Book of Mormon anachronisms and translation issues. But yeah, Tapir, what the heck is a tapir? I love Christology memes when they're done well, and this is brilliant. By the way, in the chat, thoughts on this? If Jesus was actually all-knowing, did he have to be potty trained? Sure, this is a Wendy's.
Of course, the hypostatic union.
This is one I made a few years ago. It's very esoteric, but if you get it, yeah. Do you both of you guys get the reference to Sirius? Yeah, okay. For those who are not familiar, like some Latter-day Saints scholars believe Kolob is actually a reference to the star Sirius. KLB in Hebrew can mean dog, and Sirius was the dog star. So, and of course, like Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker was phenomenal. So yeah. I mean, I'm not a fan of him, but he was brilliant as a Joker. So that kind of adds to it.
My wife had to explain who he was when the movie came out. Apparently he was in a bunch of rom-coms.
Oh yeah, like 10 Things I Hate About You. Okay, well, that's the end of the memes I have sharing. But Errol, I'll let you be able to share the screen because you have one or two, so you should be able to share.
3 or 4. Let's see. Get that going. And share screen. Yeah. That working?
Yes, but I can't see like the second half of it.
Yes, there will be some scrolling.
And here is where we keep our Pope over the whole. Okay, so there'll be some scrolling. You might want to like change the magnification, like say maybe 100 to like 80 or something.
Yep. Oh, actually, let's just go. So,
Also, David Bentley hurt.
Yeah, that's my boy Origin.
Everyone should read on First Principles and his commentary on John.
Should everyone read on First Principles? It can be a bear at times.
Sure, but
It is Origin. Commentary on John is one of his finest. And this is a little glimpse into my life right here. This is just Yep. Been down that road plenty of times. One last one there. Oh yeah.
And by the way, Errol will hopefully be joining me in the near future discussing Roman ecclesiology and Christology. Your friend Sam Schmoon appeared with Jay Dyer discussing Trinitarianism and early Christianity. So, you have to do something about that in the near future as well.
What is Sam Schmoon? I've watched his video. I don't know his background. What is
he?
He?
A Calvinist until recently, but he's been talking a lot with William Albrecht. He's defended with Albrecht Mary's perpetual virginity, as well as most recently the bodily assumption of Mary. So he I think he attends the Syrian Church.
Syrian Church of the East.
Yeah.
What's his background?
He was raised in a member of the Syrian Church of the East. When he was young, he had a born-again experience. He was basically a rabid anti-Catholic Calvinist for a number of years. He was also engaged in Islamic apologetics. He had a debate with Shabir Ali about 20 plus years ago. And he's basically been doing that as well as interacting with, say, Jehovah's Witnesses like Greg Stafford for a number of years as well in Christology. But like in the most recent years, he has embraced the Syrian Church of the East, but he's not dogmatic about it. He seems to lean towards Roman Catholicism as well, although he seems to be working through some issues. But he definitely does believe in, especially in light of what's called the sense of the faithful, the sensus fidelium. Basically, it's the idea, like, say, that God leads the church through the Holy Spirit and wants the moral majority believe in a certain practice or a certain doctrine because of the indefectibility of the church. That would mean that it's a true belief that goes back to the apostles. So because like the sense of the faithful in his views, bodily assumption of Mary and perpetual virginity and icon veneration, well, these can't be accretions. They're actually part of the apostolic deposit of faith, albeit slap some Newman on it. So he, as I said, like he had only like a few weeks ago, I think maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago today, he had a 2-on-2 debate with Turretin Fan, a Calvinist, and Dan Chapa, who's an Arminian Baptist, on the bodily assumption of Mary.
Yeah, what's his educational background? Is he just into studying? Is he just?
I don't think he has any. I know he doesn't have any formal
degrees?
degree in theology, but he's been studying as a lay person for like a number of years, and basically, I think this is his profession. I don't really know too much about his personal life, and frankly, I don't care. I don't think that's relevant.
Yeah.
That's
I'm just wondering.
That's Schmoon's background.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if he was a theologian or teacher or something like that. People tend to flock to him and like him. So,
well, he's pretty popular. I mean, if you were to cool it down a bit and stuff like that, and be a bit more civil,
he's a little inflammatory. I mean, I know a missionary tried to call into a show, which was a mistake for that missionary to do. But
yeah,
he was harsh on him. Could have been a little bit nicer.
Sure. Yeah, so that's kind of the memes. I just wanted to say do a live stream and see how the sound quality is. For those here in the chat, was the sound quality on my end good? Was it better than previous podcast episodes I've appeared on? Thinking of just using the sound booth, like any forthcoming projects I'll be working on that needs audio visual. So let me know if the but anything you gents want to talk about or discuss? Errol, any words of wisdom about patristics? And when the heck are you coming back on the podcast?
Yeah, so I'm between contracts right now, so that's going to impact my scheduling a lot as soon as I get that done.
But want to plug your new blog?
Oh, it's modest.
Yeah, but if you want to share the URL or the name of it so people can track it down.
It's patristicarcana.blogspot.com.
Cool. And you have some posts interacting with a recent debate on creation ex nihilo with Andrew Harrison and asshole we all know about, that's me being polite. But yeah.
He's not my favorite. Who did he debate with recently?
Are you talking about Andrew Harrison, or are you talking about?
Yeah. He debated. Oh, was it Jacob Hansen?
Jacob Hansen over the.
Yeah, that they did one.
That was a slaughter.
Yeah, that was bad. For somebody who offers to debate frequently, he sure didn't do a very good job.
No.
I
And I know he has a forthcoming debate with a friend of mine on the theology of the fall in the Book of Mormon. Like, so I don't know how that's going to go.
not
Probably
well.
not well. And I think he leans towards Eastern Orthodoxy, so that kind of shows you like he doesn't really know much about patristics. If he honestly thinks icon veneration is apostolic in origin. Now, I'm not sure if he is Eastern Orthodox, but as I was told, he leans towards that view. So
He's investigating it.
Yeah,
okay,
last I interacted with him, he was just a garden variety evangelical.
okay, well, I was told he was like leaning towards Eastern Orthodoxy at some stage, but I'm glad he's
Yeah,
no
he
longer
might
leaning towards
be
it.
now.
I don't know.
He might be now.
I don't know. It's like what is better. I don't know. I think like being Eastern Orthodox is being better than your typical garden variety evangelical.
Right.
But,
Well, that's how I don't know if you remember John Yelland. He did that, kind of left the church, atheist,
I
went
think there's
to
New Age
West,
for a while.
went to some Eastern religions, and then found his way into. Basically, it's like I went from structured church to feeling like I needed structured church.
Yeah.
Which I think is always funny that people.
Well, at least he still has a high ecclesiology, not the
Right.
episcopal. Not all Protestants have like a pure ecclesiology, like confessional Lutherans and Anglicans tend to have a high ecclesiology. So do Reformed Baptists and Presbyterians, but like your typical American style evangelical, it's just me and my Bible, it's a relationship, not a religion. Piss poor, and I would say, frankly, blasphemous ecclesiology. So at least he has
Well,
that going.
I think it's one of the reasons why religion in the United States is on the decline so badly, because I mean it would seem that the leaders of these various churches would be shooting themselves in the foot advocating a relationship over some kind of ecclesiastical structure in their churches, but I guess they're not seeing it that way.
Well, Josiah Flynn said Andrew Harrison keeps saying hyperstatic union like it's a discussion in there, regardless of whatever Pines Hansen brings up. Yeah, that's true. And Wyoming apologist Andrew Harrison left evangelicalism for Eastern Orthodoxy after Robert Gore destroyed his arguments in Sola Scriptura. I'm not a fan of Robert Gore. I think he's pretty lousy when it comes to research. So if you leave Protestantism because of Robert Gore and then become an Eastern Orthodox, so many alarm bells are going off on that. But that's just me. I know you guys are probably friends with Gore, but his views on new routines are just crazy, like creationism.
I
And
like
also
Robert. He's a nice enough guy, but yeah.
Yeah, and also he's using Athanasius being a modalist. I mean, no, that's just nuts. But yeah,
I didn't know he thought that Athanasius was a modalist.
I think
That's unusual.
He Athanasius was many things, but he wasn't a modalist. He was pretty consistent in terms of his triadology. Of course, like he would have developed it, throughout his theological career, but he was never a modalist, in spite of like maybe an ambiguous passage here and there. I think I wasn't really persuaded by the evidence Gurr has presented on that, but at worst case scenario for Athanasius, he flubbed, or a translation has flubbed.
Right.
But it's kind of like looking at people who think like, say, modalism is in the Book of Mormon. It's based on like, say, a misreading of the text and ignoring the whole enchilada. And by the way, for those who are wondering, part 2 of my debate/dialogue on modalism in Restorationist Scriptures will be on the 29th of October. We'll be discussing the lectures on faith, 1 Nephi and the changes in the Book of Mormon. About
that was Stokes.
Yep.
Was Stokes again?
Yeah, Adam Stokes.
Which was a very, very good dialogue.
Oh yeah, Adam's a smart guy, and we both like.
He's a very smart guy. So. Yeah, he needs to be encouraged to, be a little bit more aggressive. I think, not necessarily in a hostile way, but I'd like to hear more of a defense of his ideas.
Yeah, but if anything, like hopefully it will like be the death knell to the claim that early LDS scripture and theology was modalism. It wasn't. But
no, your analysis of First Nephi chapter 1, I thought was excellent. I've used those arguments in other
I think you mean
discussions.
Mosiah 15.
Well, First Nephi chapter 1 with respect to the refutation of that's an early text for the separate nature of the Godhead.
I think maybe you think of Moses 1. I don't think we touched upon First Nephi 1, but we'll be discussing.
No, not in that discussion. But
okay,
I
got you.
In previous discussions.
Yeah,
you did an analysis to show that.
Yeah.
So,
but we'll be discussing the theology of First and Second Nephi because, like, the changes made to the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
Maybe he thinks it, but like, what's rather interesting, like, those changes were made in 1837, but he believes the church was largely modalist in theology until the Book of Abraham was completed in 1842. So there seems to be a bit of a chronological discrepancy. But proceeding from that, we'll be still discussing that. I don't think even the original text of the Book of Mormon is not consistent with modalism if you read the context and understand, like, say, father is a multivalent term and so forth. But we'll be discussing that in lectures in Fate in general, as well as lecture in Fate 5, because Dan Vogel and, funny enough, Adam also believes that the lectures in Fate are consistent with modalism, particularly lecture in Fate 5. But we'll be discussing that as well. So, and hopefully in the future, we can actually have one on the Greek New Testament and whether it teaches modalism as well, because we both know Greek and Hebrew, so it'll be fun.
That'll be a great one.
Yeah.
I always love it when people nerd it up with the original languages.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. I think, you know, like, some of the texts he will be appealing to, like Acts 20:28 and like God's blood, that very intriguing. But yeah, we'll be discussing like textual variants in the manuscripts as well, because there's an important series of textual variants in Acts 20 verse 28.
Yeah, I find that a lot of the original text arguments just seem shockingly like special pleading. Well, we have to just go with the original. Any changes made to the text are discounted, even though they were made by Joseph Smith, which I just don't know how you get there.
Yeah, I'll probably ask him about the chronological discrepancy during the Q&A, but yeah.
It's like he was a prophet, or, I mean, how quickly did he take that hat off? I don't ever follow that logic very well.
Yeah, I don't know how he'll approach that one. But we'll see. I mean, I think Adam would be probably, because of his educational background, like master's, open dissertation, wrote a book on the Old Testament for students, and works as a Latin tutor as well as librarian at a private school. I think he's pretty well educated in theology.
Yeah.
So that will be a fun discussion. Oh, and by the way, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, and like people in the chat, like everyone in the chat is a fan of Don Bradley. A couple of weeks ago, I was filmed on, I was about to call Midnight Mormons, but Ward Radio on Mariology, but we only had like a couple of minutes. Don and I, one on Sunday the 22nd, we should be appearing together on the Interpreter Radio show discussing the Epistle of James for Come Follow Me, and whatever topics come up in Mormonism during that week as well. But I've reached out to Don and he's agreed, although we'll probably be end of this year, beginning of next year. He will be on my podcast and we will be discussing Mariology in light of Latter-day Saint theology and the Book of Mormon and other topics as well. So Don Bradley will be appearing on my podcast soon. So that's a huge win.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's going to be so good. Love Don. Yeah.
And I will be appearing as well with Bruce Webster on the third Sunday of this month. So that will be the 15th. So not this Sunday, but Sunday week. And among other things, we'll be discussing Hebrews chapters 7 to 13 for Come Follow Me as well. Hebrews is my favorite book. I'll be teaching chapters 1 to 6 in November for Gospel Doctrine. So 7 to 13 will be fun as well. So we'll probably be discussing Melchizedek and why he's not Jesus. But he's the dumbest argument some Protestants believe in. And funnily enough, like, you probably know this, Errol, but like, from my study, the earliest person that I've ever come across who's identified Melchizedek with Jesus, not just as a typological relationship, but Melchizedek is the person of Jesus, is actually Ambrose of Milan in his book on the Sacraments. And he ties that into his view that the Eucharist, like Melchizedek's offering in Genesis 14, is actually a sacrifice. So I perhaps you're familiar with an earlier one, but that's the earliest I've come across for that identification.
No, there's nothing pre-Nicene to that effect.
Yeah. And it requires like a misreading of what Hebrews is saying about the relationship between Melchizedek and Jesus. Melchizedek was a type of Jesus. Without father, without mother, that's in reference to his priesthood and other things as well. So, but yeah,
I've heard that argument for decades though, and it's very common. But
oh yeah,
the same.
It's like James White. James White is pretty open to it. Ron Rhodes, in his very popular book, Reasoning from the Scriptures with the Mormons from '95, teaches it in a very convoluted way based on typology and God's foreknowledge and weird stuff like that. But it's a really good, easy response to like, well, if only Jesus singularly holds the Melchizedek priesthood, what about Melchizedek guy? It's like, oh no, that's Jesus. That's a Christophany. Ignoring like how the Davidic king is said to be after the order of Melchizedek in terms of his priesthood in Psalm 110, and a couple of other things as well, which kind of results in some prots, not all, but some prots claiming, well, those liturgical hymns had no fulfillment at all until Christ. So for like 1,000 years, these liturgical hymns, and that's what they are, liturgical hymns, had no reference at all, to the Davidic king, which doesn't work for Psalm 45 unless, of course, you think Jesus was a polygamist. But yeah, so that's going to be discussed. So that's what we'll be discussing. So, Shash, any comments or questions or super chats? Okay, well, there's solid. Any other news from you guys? Like any good books or articles you've read recently that you want to plug? Oh, by the way, Earl, because we have you here, do you want like maybe plug a good book or two for those who may be interested in like studying early Christianity? I think there's that Penguin book, and maybe another source. Just while we have an audience and while we have a video going on here.
Penguin Classics did publish early Christian writings with translations by Maxwell Staniforth, which consists of most of the sub-apostolic Christian writers in a very accessible translation, with commentary by Andrew Loaf, who's a heavy hitter in the patristic community. So, and that's primary source material, and I usually recommend that people go straight for the primary source material. There is more secondary source material if you're looking for scholarly introductions. Actually, I think Maxwell Institute recently came out with Ancient Christians, which is specifically geared to be an introduction. I haven't actually finished it yet. Chapter 4.
I was actually just going to ask what you guys' opinion was on that. I'm about halfway through it.
So I'll let you go first, Earl.
I don't know. So chapter 4 just like assumed that all the pastoral epistles were not genuinely Pauline and were written in the late 1st and early 2nd century. So that was
nonsense.
Yeah, that was they didn't even entertain, the idea that they could be genuine. So that was kind of a letdown. Yeah.
I've had several people send me questions about some of the things that he draws as far as conclusions there.
Yeah.
And he'll draw conclusions, but you need to actually develop a thought. You can't say people think and leave it there when you're writing a book like that. He does that too much.
I mean, the first 3 chapters, great before the 4th one there. I haven't got to the really good stuff yet. I haven't got to the deification. I don't imagine that I'm going to have a whole lot of disagreement with that. I got to be doing something terribly wrong to get that one twisted. So, yeah, haven't finished it. I'm reading too many books at once again. I've fallen into that trap. Well, Robert doesn't have that problem, but the rest of us can't afford to do that.
Well, it's one of the benefits of having a rich boss and a very nice book budget. As one example for like a project I'm working on, I managed to order and I'll be reimbursed a book by Brill, by Donald Perry on variants in the book of Isaiah between the Masoretic text and the Great Isaiah Scroll. It's going to be used for work, but there's an apologetic purpose as well, because you often hear like the BS argument that there's no difference or substantial difference between the Masoretic text and the Dead Sea Scroll texts of Isaiah. So But yeah, in terms of the ancient Christians book by the Maxwell Institute, I read it when it came out, and yes, everyone should get that book if you want to start patristics. A number of very good books are in it, like Juan Clement, which is from the year 69. Yeah, as well as the Didache and other cool works. Errol disagrees with me about the dating of Juan Clement, but
I know.
maybe we can discuss that someday. But
Open
it's
to the
still first century
possibility of
Jewish.
earlier dating.
That's when you know. That's when you know you're a true nerd, when you're debating the dating of the text.
But at least we can agree. Paul wrote the
Not
pastoral
disregarding its
epistles.
significance. No disregarding its significance, but
No. One Clement's really good because it's the absolute refutation of Roman Catholic ecclesiology. Because you
Right.
look at all the gymnastics around it, it's clearly a plurality of elders who are presiding over at least that portion of Rome. And I say that portion of Rome because Earl actually has like a very good work on Facebook on the on some patristics group on Hippolytus and his ecclesiology and other things that he will be appearing on podcast in the near future to discuss. But Vatican I is ahistorical to the max. But when it comes to, say, the ancient Christian book, I read it when it came out, so it's been a couple months ago. It was kind of hit and miss. I mean, probably the best LDS book on patristics from the apologetic perspective. There's actually two. Barry Bickmore's book, Restoring the Ancient Church, in a second edition from 2013. I disagree with some of it. Like, unfortunately, the second edition uses endnotes, not footnotes, which I find to be a 9.
Yeah.
But it's still a very good book, even if I would disagree with a few things. And unfortunately, he does not deal with some topics which I would have loved if he did, like Mariology and icon veneration. But
gosh, I haven't read that book in years.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's very good.
And also, there was another book that came out by Firms in 2005, Early Christians in Disarray. That had a series of very good essays by Believe in Latter-day
Who wrote
Saints.
that?
It was edited by Noah Reynolds, but like Bickmore had an essay on the ecumenical councils, and there's like series of essays as well. They actually had David Paulson, who's now deceased. They republished one of these articles on divine embodiment and how Augustine is a witness to a belief amongst the laity of his time in divine embodiment, as was Origen. They both rejected divine embodiment. They were pretty gung-ho about that, but their writings do evidence that a number of early Christians, in their view and in their time, did believe that God had a body, and not simply, and it wasn't in reference to Jesus, it was in reference to the Father. Because what's often ignored is, if you read Chalcedonian Christology and the Decrees of Chalcedon, it's part and parcel of Chalcedonian Christology that Jesus remains embodied eternally. He did not lose his resurrected body. He still, because of the hypostatic union, that will last forever. So he's embodied even now as the heavenly high priest, and he'll remain embodied forever. So the second person of the Trinity actually has a body in Chalcedonian creedal Christology. By the way, huge shout out to Living Mom Birch.
I love that book.
Thanks for the very generous super chat.
I finished that a couple months ago. It was great.
And Wyoming Apologist, this was a great video. I got a lecture in theology while looking at memes. I'll try to maybe do a live stream every so often. I prefer podcasts and blogging because I hate the sound of my voice. But if you guys want, let me know if you want say a monthly live stream on say random stuff. Let me know if you want that in the chat and make it kind of a regular thing. I don't mind if it's just once a month. But yeah. But yeah, thanks again to Living Mom Birch for the very generous super chat. I do appreciate it. So in the chat, if there's any final comments or questions you want to ask us, and if not, we'll end in a few minutes. But so before we kind of end, any other things you guys want to share, any other news, in the world of theology?
News.
Okay, well, in terms of say future episodes, I will probably have an episode on the podcast in 2 weeks on Ephesians as a temple text. a friend, Jacob Ryder, reached out and he said he would be interested in presenting on that topic. And I will have to get Sarah Allen and David Snell to agree to a day that suits both of them. But hopefully we'll have both of them on at the same time discussing how like someone who's not involved 24/7 in scholarship can actually engage in research and do a good job. As everyone knows, Sarah did an excellent response to the CES letter that's been on the FAIR website and soon will be published as a book. And David Snell has been doing excellent work on the Saints Unscripted YouTube page as well as the website, doing research and like say various topics. Most recently, whether Cain is Bigfoot, but he's also doing some good stuff on the White Horse Prophecy and other things as well. Like I think there's also a discussion about Adam Gall and the White Horse Prophecy and some other fun stuff as well. So we should get both of them on at the same time and discuss like how one can go about researching and very good free resources, like Book of Mormon Central, now Scripture Central and other places as well, and how to do research, even if you're not by profession a researcher or a scholar. So that should be a very good episode and should be helpful for those who may want to delve into apologetics, but they might not have a background, they think, in terms of their education to do a good job. I mean, anyone can be a good apologist,
But you do have to learn to read.
More than welcome,
That was
Sarah.
was
Speaking
a
of
special.
Ireland, when is someone going to do a temple ordinance of the Clancy brothers and Tommy Macker? It beats me. Wyoming apologist. Who else do you have planned debates or discussions with? Jacob Ryder, Matthew Bowen. He will be in Utah in January. Matthew has done excellent work on Book of Mormon names. So we will be having a hopefully actually an in-person podcast discussion. He did say he wanted to discuss Christology, Book of Mormon Christology and Book of Mormon Mariology with me, which I would be down with. If not, maybe something to do with he's working on the Gnostics, i.e. names in the Book of Mormon. By the way, everyone check out Matthew Bowen, Bowen. He's worked on names and wordplays in the Book of Mormon. Probably the best evidences alongside the Arabian Peninsula stuff that's been discussed in like the last decade. He's brilliant. But he currently lectures in BYU Hawaii, so the time zone difference will be a bit odd. But yeah, Matthew Bowen, we'll have Don Bradley on, reach out to Craig Foster. I reached out to Thomas Ord, the Open Theist Process Theologian Fellow, and he said he'd be down to come on the show sometime. But I should follow up because it's been a couple of months. But that should be a fun discussion about, because Ord, although he's not a Latter-day Saint, he actually has written a book critiquing creation and Nahim, and he's actually a fan of Blake Oster's book. And I reached out to Blake Oster again a couple months ago, and I should follow up on this, discussing the mathematics of infinity and traversing infinity, like where he responded to Craig. Would like for him to come on and present like a discussion about that. But for those of us like me who are not math nerds, I used to be in the tax accountant, so I know normal math, but I don't know like mathematics infinity. And one other person who should be coming on in the near future, actually two, will be, I've reached out to Brian Passantino from the Church History Library, so maybe he might come on. And also Joseph Lowell, who runs the LDS philosophy page. He will be coming on to discuss Orson Pratt's theology and respond to the essay critiquing Pratt in the New Mormon Challenge, and maybe a couple of other things as well. So we do have like a couple things here and there. I'll be on vacation in December, but hopefully can get like something done before or after I visit God's country.
A full schedule. Good.
Someone read Ivy Records. Can't believe I'll have to learn to read to be an apologist. Haven't seen some of the evangelical offerings I thought they were in the requirements. Well, if you want to be intellectually honest, you have to learn how to read. But if you don't want to be, become a prot-apologist.
Yeah, and I would recommend that you not start a YouTube channel wherein you debate or discuss with Protestants or anybody if you also admittedly do not read much. That's a bad idea.
Spookster asked, any thoughts on Jonathan Peugeot and his description of symbolism? I've heard of Peugeot, but truth be told, I haven't actually read or watched anything he's done so far. Not that I don't want to, it's just like because of time, but any of you guys have watched or read anything by Jonathan Peugeot, who I know is Eastern Orthodox? Or any, okay. Any
Don't
thoughts?
run into him very often.
Okay,
Into Orthodoxy very often.
Yeah,
I'm in the South, so I'm in the South. We Everybody's
But if there's like a
Catholic or
particular
anything, no.
video you want me to like maybe watch, and maybe I can respond to some parts of it or have a discussion about it sometime, drop me an email at scripturalmormonism at gmail.com, or message me on Facebook. I know there's a couple, but if there's any particular one you would like for me to maybe not even like review or critique, just maybe watch and give a response to your question at a later time, let me know. As I said, I've heard of Peugeot, and I know he has a book out on symbolism, but I just haven't had time to actually pursue anything he's done so far. Okay, well, that seems to be it. So, last call for any comments or questions, and then we'll end in a few minutes because I need to walk back home. Okay, well, before we end, because Earl as my, loves patristics, I'm going to at one go in one. I'll attempt in just one breath to list all the fathers and the texts that teach the bodily assumption of Mary and icon veneration in the first 300 years. You ready? Ta-da!
Yeah.
And Red Ivy Records, yeah, it should be available. Sorry you missed the first hour. There was some dank memes shared, but it should be posted straight away or like in a few hours after we end the live stream. And if not, I'm recording at the moment, so I'll put it up on the main page of the YouTube channel. But yeah, you should be able to find it. So any other final comments or questions before we end things? Well, while you guys may be typing in any questions, again, we're on Patreon. I have a PayPal, I have Venmo. So if you like what I do, feel free. You don't have to, but if you want to donate, feel free to. Let's see what else. My website, scripturalmormonism.blogspot.com. My works website is mormonor.org, the B.H. Roberts Foundation. We don't just do memes. And yeah, so epic. Yes. Thanks, Red Ivy Records. Well, I'll end things now. So again, thanks guys for coming on. In the chat, if you want this to be a monthly thing, let me know. I might try to do like maybe 1 hour, 2 hours a month if you're interested in like say a live stream or whatever. And we can actually work out the dynamics of it, like even if it's just like meme review or something like that, alongside say the regular-ish podcast episodes like once or twice a month. But yeah, again, thanks Travis for coming on. Hopefully we can have you on again. And
No worries. Cool.
hopefully we can have you on not just for the live streams, but like for some once you kind of get work kind of settles down, some of the shows on patristics, like Christology and ecclesiology. That would be fun.
Yeah.
And also maybe like say an introduction to patristic texts. Because I know like loads of Latter-day Saints want to study the patristics, but you know where to start is always the important thing. So yeah, thanks guys for coming on. Thanks Paul Benjamin. I'm happy you like the studio, and yes, thank you for the kind words. So we'll end the stream here, but thanks for everyone for watching, and hopefully we can make this a bit of a regular change. So until then, take care and have a great weekend. Oh, and before I leave, I know I mentioned this at the start, but for those who are wondering, the Fate Matters conference, I will be manning the booth alongside my boss and a couple of co-workers next Friday and Saturday at the Expo Center in Salt Lake City. We'll have Kinderhook plate chocolate, we'll have shirts, and we'll have other BHR goodies. So feel free to come over and say hi and introduce yourself. I'll be there as well, wearing either a BH Roberts shirt or something to antagonize some progressives there, like my I Heart polygamy shirt. You can't miss me. So yeah, Expo Center Friday and Saturday next week. So you should release merch. Yeah. Well, and thanks for everyone. And until then, have a great weekend. Okay, recording stop and live stream stop.